Okay, this lecture is the follow-up lecture to the second half of the Protestant Reformation lecture. So if you were absent in class on Tuesday and you did not get the second part of the Protestant Reformation lecture, you do need to go back and complete that before doing this lecture. So this lecture we're going to talk about the Catholic Reformation. This is also referred to as the Counter Reformation. And the Catholic Reformation was a direct response to the Protestant Reformation by the Roman Catholic Church. And this is when the Roman Catholic Church will start to be reformed from within. The goal of the Catholic Reformation for the Roman Catholic Church was to win back people to Catholicism or to prevent more people from leaving Catholicism. So, some of the key ideas from the Catholic Reformation was establishing new leadership. They wanted to elect popes that were energetic about the job, who were less worldly and consumed by wealth. So, the clergy or the religious figures that make up the Roman Catholic Church were expected to be devoted to be devoted to the church and to have high religious standards. And in some cases, they did have to make a uh, statement of living by modest means or by denouncing some of their wealth that they held previously, but this was not the case in all churches. So the next key idea is the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent is a meeting by religious figures throughout the Roman Catholic Church. The Council of Trent meeting was called by Pope Paul III, and he was the Pope at the time this was happening. And a couple things that happened at this meeting. So they wanted to look at all of these issues brought up by the Protestant Reformation, and the goal was to establish or kind of reestablish church doctrine. What was going to change? What was going to stay the same? So the outcomes of the Council of Trent, they decided that the papal supremacy or the Pope and the church were the only ones who had the power to interpret the Bible. They also prohibited church abuses like nepotism, simony, and the sale of indulgences. So those were the three issues that we talked about on Monday that people had issues with the church. So that is one area that actually does get reformed, is that those become outlawed. Clergy had to renounce worldly pleasures, so not living lavish lifestyles. They had to get rid of their wealth, or they had to uh, live a life of modesty. And they also authorized what was called an index. An index is a list of books that was forbidden by the Roman Catholic Church, books that were forbidden for anyone who was part of the Roman Catholic Church to read. And they said that these books were heretical, which they led to people going against church doctrine. We've talked about the word heretic. So people who would read books that were on the index were considered heretics. And then something else that happened after the Council of Trent, and this is kind of a reverse of a reform, is the Holy Inquisition. In order to prevent more people from leaving the church, they started what was called the Holy Inquisition. And this is a period of time where the Roman Catholic Church would hold extensive trials to weed out heretics and to make sure that people weren't leaving the church. So, as the Reformation was moving forward, they were pushing harder against people they considered heretics. They thought that if they publicly condemned heretics, that less people would leave the church. People would be too scared to leave the church, and it was kind of them grabbing at what they could, and it was a way for them to kind of remain powerful and to keep people within the Catholic Church. Out of the Catholic Reformation, you also have the Society of Jesus, and these people also are referred to as Jesuits. The Society of Jesus is formed, and this is a religious order. It's founded in 1534 by a guy named Ignatius Loyola, and it's the same Loyola that Loyola College is named after. and they saw themselves as spiritual soldiers fighting Protestantism. So they're not actually, the Society of Jesus or the Jesuits are not actually like foot soldiers. Soldiers in this case is a metaphor. They served as priests and teachers. And what they did is they went out and they established all sorts of seminaries and colleges worldwide. And the impact of the Society of Jesus is seen in the US today. We have here in Kansas City, Rockhurst University, Avila, and those are both Jesuit institutions. On a bigger scale, like I said, there's Loyola, there's Notre Dame. So those are all Jesuit universities or Jesuit institutions. And so the Jesuits are Catholic, a little bit more strict Catholic in some forms. And again, the reason why the Society of Jesus is formed is to fight Protestantism, is to stop people from moving over to Protestantism. So, some of the results of the Reformation, you can categorize these into two results. Immediate, one of the immediate effects was the end of religious unity. So, there was no more religious unity across Western Europe. You had places that remained predominantly Catholic and then ones that transformed almost entirely to Protestant. So, your Catholic countries were Italy, Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, Ireland, southern Germany, Austria, Poland, and Hungary. So again, those all remain Catholic. And then your Protestant areas, England, Scotland, Wales, Holland, North Germany, Switzerland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So basically Northern Europe. And some of the long-term effects are one of the other immediate effects was also religious wars. These will go on extensively during the 15th and the 16th and 17th centuries. I'm sorry. And this is just wars that are caused from the clash of Protestants and Catholics. Long term effects, you have the encouragement of education. People were encouraged to read and study the Bible on their own as a result of the Protestant Reformation. And the printing press made this available to everyone. And people now could be or could have access to Bibles, especially with the translation of the Bible by John Wycliffe into English. There was just more access to it. And it was, even though there were religious wars immediately, eventually it led towards religious tolerance and Catholics and Protestants being able to live among each other peacefully.